The news hit like a slap in the face. Jack Abbott captured, kidnapped by none other than Victor Newman. Phyllis Summers stared at the screen, her mind spinning as the details of Victor's sinister game unfolded before her eyes. The Abbotts were desperate, cornered into a decision they never should have had to make, and the power was in her hands. Victor's demands were simple, Chancellor in exchange for Jack, but Phyllis wasn't like the rest of the Abbotts. She had her own agenda, her own set of rules. She wasn't going to be manipulated by Victor's usual scare tactics, not after all the games he had played with her life. Victor doesn't scare me, Phyllis muttered, packing around her office, her mind running a mile a minute. She couldn't help but replay the history between her and Victor. It was always a battle of wills, a fight for control, and she wasn't about to let him win this time. Phyllis knew Victor. She knew he would never harm Lily Winters or the twins. He had no real leverage against her, and that's why he was using Jack, because he knew how much the Abbotts cared. But Jack wasn't just anyone to Phyllis. Her heart clenched at the thought of him, of their past, of the betrayal she had suffered at his hands. She had been blindsided once before, duped by Marco Anicelli, the man who had taken Jack's place for months while she unknowingly slept beside him, thinking it was her husband. The memory of that deception still burned deep within her, a wound that would never fully heal. Victor had masterminded that cruel charade, and Phyllis had never forgiven him for it. But this time things were different. Phyllis wasn't going to be played. Her eyes narrowed as she considered her options. The Abbotts were in turmoil, torn between their love for Jack and the power struggle Victor had orchestrated. Diane Jenkins Abbott, always the emotional one, would surely beg her to make the trade. Phyllis could already see the desperation in Diane's eyes, hear the heartbreak in her voice. "If you ever loved Jack at all," Diane would plead, her voice trembling with emotion, "please, Phyllis, do this. Bring him back to us." The words felt like a knife in Phyllis' chest. It wasn't just about Jack, it was about Victor's manipulation, his constant need to control everyone around him. Phyllis knew better than anyone that Victor wouldn't hesitate to destroy her, to take away everything she had worked for, and he had already taken enough from her. She wasn't about to give him Chancellor too. But Jack was her past. Their history was complicated, painful. She still remembered the way his touch had felt, the way their love had burned bright before the lies had torn them apart. Would she do it? Would she give in to Diane's plea? The thought twisted her stomach into knots. But then her phone buzzed, an incoming call from Daniel Romalotti Jr. She answered it without hesitation, her voice sharp with tension. "Mom, you can't let him do this. You can't let Victor win." Daniel's voice came through, urgent and pleading. "I'm not letting anyone win, Daniel," Phyllis replied, her tone icy. "I'm doing what's best for me, for us." "You're not thinking straight. Phyllis, if you don't give in to his demands, Jack could die. Do you want that on your conscience?" Phyllis felt the coldness in her chest tighten, but she refused to show any weakness. "Victor, playing a game, Daniel, and I'm not going to let him use me to win. If I give him Chancellor, he'll have even more power, and what happens next? He comes after us again." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Phyllis could practically hear Daniel's thoughts racing, and she could feel the weight of his words settling into her gut. She wasn't just dealing with Victor anymore, she was dealing with her son's plea, the knowledge that Jack's life was in her hands, and the crushing realization that, no matter what she did, someone was going to suffer. And then she thought of Summer, her daughter, caught between loyalty to her family and the brutal reality of the situation. Summer would hate her for making the wrong choice, but Phyllis wasn't sure there was a right choice to be made. Her fingers tightened around the phone. "I'll do what I have to do." The next day, Phyllis found herself standing in the middle of a battlefield, the weight of her decision pressing down on her like a heavy stone. She stood at the edge of the Abbott's mansion, the tension between her and Diane palpable. Diane's face was etched with worry, but there was also something else, something Phyllis recognized all too well: desperation. "Phyllis," Diane began, her voice trembling with emotion, "please, if you care about Jack at all." "I care about him more than you'll ever understand," Phyllis snapped, her anger bubbling to the surface. "But I'm not going to let you or Victor play me again." Diane stepped closer, her eyes pleading. "This isn't about you, it's about Jack. He's been through so much already. You can end this, you can save him." Phyllis turned away, her fists clenched at her sides. She wanted to scream, to tell Diane how much she hated Victor, how much she hated being caught in the middle of this twisted game, but she didn't have the luxury of emotion, not anymore. I won't be manipulated, Diane, Phyllis said through gritted teeth, and I won't hand over Chancellor. Victor wants to tear us apart, but I won't let him, not again. But Jack, Diane's voice cracked, her eyes filled with tears. Jack's not the only one who's been hurt in this mess, Phyllis shot back, her voice rising in anger. Victor's the one who ruined my life, and I'm not going to let him destroy everything I've worked for. Phyllis turned, her eyes hard with resolve. She couldn't do this. Not for Diane, not for Jack, not for anyone. Not unless she could somehow turn the tables on Victor, outsmart him once and for all. And then, as if fate had aligned with her thoughts, a new idea began to form in her mind. A way to make Victor regret ever crossing her path, but it would come with a cost. She glanced back at Diane, her heart heavy with the weight of her decision. I'll do it, Phyllis said softly. I'll make the trade, but only if I get what I want. Diane's face lit up with relief. Thank you, Phyllis, thank you. But Phyllis wasn't done yet. She wasn't going to give Victor the satisfaction of seeing her weak. If she was going to do this, she was going to make sure that she walked away with something more than just Jack's freedom. She was going to make sure that Victor would never forget who he was dealing with. Victor won't know what hit him, Phyllis whispered to herself, her fingers curling into a fist at her side. She had made her decision, but as the deal was set into motion, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning, and when the dust settled, someone would pay for what had happened. The game wasn't over yet.